Well, we have finally reached the tipping point, haven't we? The future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe has officially been unveiled, and honestly, it is a beautifully bleak, apocalyptic nightmare. Today, I'm taking you on a really comprehensive, forensic deep dive into all the hidden details, the buried lore, and the absolutely massive reveals surrounding Dr. Doom's arrival. We're going to put on our detective hats today and carefully unpack every single frame, every tiny design choice, and every hidden character to truly understand the sheer gravity of what's coming our way. We are looking at a fundamental, terrifying shift in cosmic power dynamics, and the clues to how it all falls apart are hiding right there in the shadows, just waiting for us to piece them together. So let me explain exactly how the end of the cinematic universe as we know it is going to begin.
Let's start with Section 1, Marvel's new design choices.
To really wrap our heads around the visual rulebook we're dealing with in this new era, we have to establish a baseline for how Marvel is currently approaching their costume design. Think about Cyclops for a second. While he proudly sports his signature iconic golden visor, there are some pretty glaring omissions if you look closely. The vibrant yellow trunks? Gone. The classic yellow gloves? Completely missing. This is a really stark contrast to his incredibly vibrant, comic-accurate look in the recent X-Men '97 animated series, the look fans went absolutely wild for. But why does this muted aesthetic actually matter? Because it sets an unshakable precedent for the grounded, terrifying reality we're about to enter.
What we're seeing is that Marvel is deliberately prioritizing cinematic aesthetics and a sense of grounded realism over 100% pure comic accuracy. And we've actually seen this specific design philosophy play out before. Picture Doctor Strange back in Thor Ragnarok. When he was in the Sanctum Sanctorum, he wore those classic, bright yellow dish glove-style gauntlets for exactly one brief scene, and then, boom, we never saw them again. Why? Well, because they simply didn't fit the cinematic, grounded tone Marvel needed for a live-action universe. We just shouldn't expect pure, campy comic accuracy moving forward. And understanding this visual language perfectly sets the stage for the terrifying, modernized masterpiece that is Dr. Doom's new armor.
Which brings us right into Section 2, Stolen Powers and Evil Avengers.
Let's shift our focus to the main event here, Dr. Doom's incredibly intimidating new armor. You see, this isn't just a protective suit of metal, it is a dark, bloody history written in titanium and magic. Consider the ancient, glowing runes carved directly into his chestplate and gauntlets. These are absolutely not just decorative. We literally see these exact runes flare with crackling energy when Doom effortlessly stops Thor's mighty Stormbreaker with just 2 fingers. I mean, really think about that. Think about the massive kinetic force of a weapon forged in a dying star, brought to a dead halt by a single carved spell. It proves his arsenal is a perfectly lethal hybrid. He isn't just a man in a high-tech suit like Iron Man, and he isn't just a fragile wizard like Doctor Strange. He's perfectly fused both disciplines into something that is virtually unstoppable.
Beyond the runes, we really need to look closer at the specific emblems etched into his armor, because this is where the psychological horror truly begins. One is a star that is identical to Captain Marvel's emblem. Another clearly depicts Mjolnir. He didn't just adopt these for style, folks. These are trophies of war. It heavily implies that before this iteration of Doom ever even steps foot into our universe, he has already slaughtered the gods of his own reality. He hasn't just defeated Captain Marvel and Thor. He has likely absorbed their cosmic power, wearing their symbols to mock the very idea of hope, essentially waging psychological warfare on any surviving Avengers who dare to look him in the eye.
And this mastery over stolen magic leads to a brilliant, absolutely terrifying deception. Imagine the claustrophobic tension on the Fantastic Four's ship. Doom infiltrates their ranks, pretending to be an ally. With him is a Steve Rogers, but I am completely convinced this is a Skrull-like imposter, a dark, evil Steve from another timeline. But how on earth does an imposter convince our wary heroes to trust him? By wielding Mjolnir. The heroes see the face of Earth's greatest soldier holding the ultimate undeniable symbol of worthiness, and their guard instantly drops. But the truth is far, far more sinister. Doom is secretly using his magic from the shadows to manipulate the hammer, seamlessly placing it into the hands of a traitor.
You have to deeply consider the lore of Mjolnir here. Remember, Odin placed a blood magic enchantment on that hammer. Whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor. To bypass the Allfather's enchantment doesn't just require some cheap parlor trick. It requires god-tier fundamental reality manipulation. Doom is literally hacking the cosmic source code of the universe to make an unworthy imposter appear pure of heart. It's an absolute masterclass in psychological manipulation. If he can casually break the rules of Mjolnir without even breaking a sweat, the Avengers have absolutely no idea what they're truly up against.
Let's move on to Section 3, Unmasking the Latverian Witch.
Now we arrive at what I think is the most fascinating mystery of this entire new era, the identity of the metal-masked fanatic currently known only as the Latveria Witch. She wears a smooth, expressionless metal faceplate, a green cloak, and runes that perfectly mirror Doom's. But who is hiding beneath the iron? Let's conduct a little forensic analysis, shall we? Guide your eyes past the mask and look at the intricate stitching of her glove-style sleeves. This tailoring is incredibly specific and perfectly matches a silhouette we know intimately. Furthermore, study the facial geometry, the exact structure of the nose and the lips that are barely visible beneath the cold metal rim. The haunting familiarity is impossible to ignore. It is an absolute, undeniable dead ringer for Wanda Maximoff. To really understand the tragedy of how Wanda Maximoff becomes a pawn of Dr. Doom, we have to dive straight into a devastating piece of comic lore called the Children's Crusade. In this specific storyline, Wanda is found wandering with severe, completely debilitating amnesia. She is incredibly vulnerable. Dr. Doom, recognizing the unmatched chaotic power of a Nexus being, takes her in, manipulates her fractured mind, and actually convinces her to marry him. During her subjugation, she is draped in a green Latverian cloak, the exact same garment we are looking at right now. This visual confirmation is an absolute gut punch. It tells us that this is an amnesiac Scarlet Witch, stripped of her memories, stripped of her autonomy, and completely weaponized by a monster.
And if you still need a smoking gun, let's talk about the pure cinematic brilliance of the color theory being used here. In specific, shadowy frames, her emerald green outfit suddenly shifts, glowing with this harsh golden-orange hue. Why does it do that? Because the filmmakers are using her signature, crackling red chaos magic to illuminate her from off-screen. Red light, violently reflecting off a green surface, creates that exact, distinct golden-orange color. It's an absolute masterstroke of visual storytelling without uttering a single line of dialogue. Wanda is back, but her reality-warping magic is definitely no longer fighting for the light.
That takes us to Section 4, Dr. Doom's Magical Army.
If Wanda Maximoff is truly serving as the spearhead of Doom's forces, it represents a terrifying paradigm shift for the cinematic universe. We're no longer dealing with vast armies of mindless alien drones or legions of disposable Stark tech robots. No, Doom is assembling a surgical strike force of the most unfathomably powerful magic users across the entire multiverse, which really begs the terrifying question. If he can break the Scarlet Witch, who else has he recruited into this dark crusade to stop reality from collapsing?
Well, the roster is shaping up to be a god-tier nightmare.
Let's trace the timeline back to Multiverse of Madness for a second. We last saw Doctor Strange and Clea tearing into the Dark Dimension to stop a catastrophic incursion. Because these universes are literally bleeding into one another, it is practically guaranteed they will cross paths with Doom out there in the void. And here is the twisted logic you have to remember. In the comics, Strange actually agrees with Doom's extreme, ruthless methods when all of reality is on the line, believing Doom is the only surgeon cold enough to cut out the rot and save what's left. So with Strange, Clea, and Wanda at his side, Doom commands a literal trinity of magical gods. Take a moment to let that sink in. Just pause and contrast this apocalyptic magical army against the fragile mortal heroes we have left on our side. It is a staggering, completely suffocating power disparity. We're talking about deities who can warp the very fabric of reality with a whisper, beings who can bend time and space to their will, going up against a fractured remnant of a defense force. The sheer existential dread of this matchup really cannot be overstated. Let's look at who is actually left to hold the line.
Our defense is, quite frankly, heartbreakingly outmatched. We have Sam Wilson's Captain America, a man with the boundless, soaring heart of a hero, but ultimately, he's just flesh and bone with zero super soldier serum in his veins. We have the Thunderbolts, a Black Ops team relying almost entirely on conventional firearms and espionage. I mean, bullets against eldritch horror? Come on. And then we have Thor, the god of thunder, who we already know is utterly demoralized, struggling to even swing his axe before Doom casually swats it away like a buzzing nuisance. Our heroes aren't walking into a battle, they are walking into a slaughter. And that grim reality brings us to our final act, Section 5, The Birth of Battleworld. This complete lack of defensive power leads us directly into the climax, right into the inevitable, crushing failure of the Avengers, and the apocalyptic sequence that is going to shatter the MCU forever. We see a highly emotional, totally devastating moment where Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, is desperately clutching onto a figure as fiery cosmic destruction rains down all around them. Initially, pretty much everyone assumed he was embracing his sister, Sue Storm, in their final moments. But if we act as detectives just one more time, a much darker, much sadder tragedy reveals itself.
By carefully analyzing the short, curly blonde hair of the person Johnny is shielding and noting the very significant height difference, we can confirm that this is absolutely not Sue Storm. Johnny's actually holding on to his young nephew, Franklin Richards. For those of you who know the deep comic lore, this is the ultimate tragic irony. Franklin Richards is a mutant with the inherent, godlike power to literally create pocket universes purely from his imagination. Yet right here, surrounded by fire and ash, the boy who can weave reality itself is completely powerless as his own universe burns to cinders around him.
We can track the pure agony of this cosmic death step by step. First, the multiverse incursions reach their terminal point. Two Earths literally collide in the sky, violently tearing the atmosphere apart. As the dark void encroaches, Sue Storm desperately projects her force fields upward, physically straining as she tries to hold back the crushing, infinite weight of a dying multiverse. But she fails. The shields shatter, and in the ensuing moments, Dr. Doom rises from the dust, claiming ultimate victory over the scattered, broken heroes. He takes the shattered, bleeding fragments of a billion dead realities and seamlessly stitches them together, forging his own twisted patchwork domain, Battleworld.
So, as we brace ourselves for this seemingly insurmountable defeat, I want to leave you with a chilling thought to ponder. If Dr. Doom wields the reality-warping chaos magic of the Scarlet Witch, if he possesses the terrifying, unyielding intellect of a Doctor Strange who willingly validates his dark crusade, and if he literally wears the stolen, godlike powers of Thor and Captain Marvel across his very chest, when the dust finally settles on Battleworld and all that remains are mere mortals with shields and handguns, how can anyone possibly hope to stop God Emperor Doom?